You also read many times that citta and nimitta is important. It's important to see your mind, to understand your mind. So, what is the best environment for that? Being able to see your mind.
Non-sensuality, non-distraction, non-company. So you can't see your mind when you're just constantly in the company. When most of your day is spent in the company of others. Even if they're all perfectly silent, perfectly mindful on a retreat, still, it's others. So if one wants to see the sign of the mind, one needs to develop perceptions in solitude. One needs to be secluded from sensuality in terms of his, not just his senses, but his mind as well. Because that's another thing. Like, it's an exercise somebody can do if they're not sure what its member is. But yeah, imagine you sort of you go to the unknown area, some forest, some wild jungle, and you go there with 10 people as a group. Now imagine like what is like the basis of your mood, how you're feeling at the time. Yeah, it's fine. Not necessarily I'm feeling pleasant, just overall, what is the sense, what is the overall perception as well of this group of us being in this environment. Now for the comparison's sake, you go to the equally remote, unknown environment all alone. And then compare the difference in the basis of that perception, of that experience as a whole. And you'll see that there is something fundamentally different when you perceive yourself alone and when you perceive yourself with at least one more person or more. And it's that difference, that's the basis for the right practice, that solitude. Now once you discern that correctly, then sure, even when you are with others you would be alone. But if you don't discern that, means even when you're alone, you're actually with others. So on the basis of that, recognition of that existential solitude, obviously sense restraint and virtue developed, you start developing that, you start discerning that sense of the general, fundamentally enduring mood you're in. And that's what mind is, basically. Practically speaking, closest to what citta is would be the most general mood of your currently enduring situation. Not like, oh, I feel something in my back or my knee hurts. No, overall mood. Is it agreeable? Is it disagreeable? Is it elated? Is it depressed? Is it sort of coming? Is it sort of going? Is it increasing? Is it fading? Is it lust? Is it anger? Is it neither? Is it equanimity? And that's how the Buddha described the mind as well. So it cannot be described more accurately than in those general terms, which for some people might be a bit ambiguous because they're not used to discerning it like that. Hence, they're not used to discerning what their mind is. So that's what I mean. You need a certain basis of virtue, solitude, and then that the signs of this enduring mood, regardless of what's particularly happening, are becoming more and more visible.
The signs of the mood, the signs of the mind, not the mind.
Exactly. You know, oh, that's my mind. You see the signs and tokens of the mind on account of which you get to discern the mind.
Because if one knows, I'm having lustful thoughts, I'm having angry, complaining thoughts, thoughts of complaining. And from that, knowing that you are actually thinking thoughts of complaining, you know.
Yeah, so that's like the first step. You recognize, okay, my mind is affected with complaining. You don't try to stop that or get rid of it, nor indulge it for that matter. You're not feeling it either. You look, what's the basis of it? So my mind is here, it is complaining, but so what underlines simultaneously this experience of complaining mind? What underlies it? It's discomfort. It's unpleasant. Something is unpleasant. You feel displeasure in regard to something, hence the symptom of complaining. So in that sense, you're not concerned with complaining as an issue. You start discerning it as a sign and token, i.e. as a symptom of the underlying issue of the mind trying to avoid displeasure. Same with anger, same with anything, basically. Whether it's sensuality, again, oh, mind wants this. Okay, so those are, you can take that as an issue in itself, as an object in itself, and then try to get rid of it, try to think the opposite of this. Good luck with that. Or you could start, what if I take this as an indication of an underlying problem, which is the state of mind that I'm not aware of, and thus reacting to it, giving into the pressure of that mind, of that mood.
But what you're saying now is also sort of indicating that the mind is not a pure good thing.
And it isn't unless you develop it. Yeah. And certainly for somebody, for Putujana, the mind is always not pure, because it's always affected with wrong view. So that's why within that wrongness, Putujana needs to start discerning what is less wrong. And what is less wrong than greed, aversion, delusion is non-greed, non-aversion, non-delusion. But yes, he's still affected with a wrong view. But because he found something less wrong, within that he can go even further and make that less wrong. When eventually you abandon all the wrong, crudely wrong, or things that are less wrong, that's how you develop the right view. Through understanding the fundamental nature of the wrong view. That's your right view. So you would discern the starting point is wrong. Right? You took instruction on a degree of faith and so on, and you start practicing reflection, and then you start discerning things that are less wrong. But it's all about undoing. And in order to keep undoing, you need to keep seeing further and further. What's this underlined by? What's this underlined by? But the problem with Putujana's mind in general is he takes for granted that what he thinks it's right, while he at the same time knows he's not a Sotapanna. But you have no such criteria, which means what you think it's right, you should not regard as right necessarily. You should look what's underneath it. As the Buddha would say, delve with a knife. Keep cutting in and cutting in and cutting in. Not keep building more and more and more until you get a perfect system that you built in your mind. So you cannot start rightly, but it doesn't mean you have to stay with that wrongness, so to speak. You can't start rightly, but you can start less wrongly, and less wrongly, and less wrongly.
Mm-hmm. And just back to
the sign of the mind.
Sign of the mind. You're saying that mind is interested.
Well, that will become apparent.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you start discerning, that's the problem. Whatever's served for Putujana, he jumps at it. Whatever he perceives through senses, that's where his attention goes. Whatever mood arises, that's where his attention is. But I'm saying is, you want to stop being concerned with particular problems. You want to start regarding them as indications of the much broader, much more fundamental liability to the problem in the first place. In other words, as I said, in the example of like the complaining mind, yeah, you might stop complaining, I'm gonna watch my breath, watch my eyes, then you calm your mind, okay. But that's just management. But instead of that, when complaining is present, while complaining is present, through not engaging with complaining, but not trying to get rid of it either, you start to see, what is this a symptom of? So you stop regarding symptoms as your illness, you start seeing them as indication of a much broader, less visible illness. And that illness is mind affected with greed, mind affected with aversion, mind affected with delusion. Once you start seeing it on that level, like indirectly, so to speak, to begin with, you recognize, oh, it's because the mind has arisen with this lust. These are the thoughts that are harassing me. But not because I want the thoughts, I must get rid of the thoughts. That's how you stop being affected by either. You realize, and that's Satipatthana Sutta, he knows elated mind as elated mind, depressed mind as depressed mind. Yeah, the mind is depressed now, not my problem. Depressed mind has a corresponding symptom of these type of thoughts, not my problem either. That's how you overcome your thinking, not by trying to get rid of it or controlling it, but by seeing what the basis of it is and abandoning it.
You don't delight in that mind.
You don't delight in what mind offers, you don't try to get rid of it, you start seeing it as an indication, as symptoms of the state of the mind that's currently present. Because you would not, it's unthinkable, it's impossible that the mind, say, is in a non-sensual mood, yet your perceptions are perceptions of sensuality. That's impossible. Or the mind is free from aversion, and yet you have thoughts of ill will. That's impossible. So thoughts of ill will means mind of aversion. Thoughts of sensuality means thoughts of sensual pleasures mean mind of sensuality. Thoughts of distraction, carelessness, whatever means mind of basically indolence and delusion.
Yeah. So being aware of your thoughts.
Rightly, having the right attitude. Not just I'm aware of what I'm thinking, I'm
Yeah.
aware. You have to start learning how to regard them as an indication of the state of mind. Not just, oh, this is sensuality, this is lust, it's all impermanent, I must look at the ugly. No, you must see the basis of your sensual thoughts, which is the mind affected by sensuality. That's how you uproot the sensual thoughts. So that's why the signs and tokens of the mind. And for that, as we said, virtue is necessary. You have to stop engaging at face value with the prospect of what your senses offer you, prospect of pleasure, prospect of rejection, prospect of denial. You stop engaging with that, then those thoughts become more apparent. Thoughts of, I want to do this, I want to say this. Then if you stay with that and don't act, don't try to get rid of it, then you start seeing, all of this is because the mind is enduring in such and such state. State of sensuality, state of aversion, state of delusion.
And you don't want it. You don't want it, but you realize if you say yes or no to the symptoms, you lose the sight of the illness, which means you're affected by it. So to truly uproot it is to develop this passion towards that mind that you discern through these indications of it. Not through management and control of your thinking. It's almost a relief. Like,
it's a huge relief. You go beyond, basically. You fully cannot be reached completely. You go beyond the domain of complaining thoughts or sensual thoughts.
Because those are all indications of what the mind
That's why
is.
developing your mind results in first jhana. Developing your mind results in development of samadhi. Results in imperturbable. Because if you have treated the illness, can any symptom apply to you ever again of that illness? No, it's inconceivable.
So it's seclusion, citta viveka.
Citta viveka would be the kind of the culmination. But again, that's what I mean. So you need to be sense restrained and virtuous. Then you actually need to be physically secluded most of the time to start discerning, like seclusion of my senses from its objects, then seclusion of my mind from my thoughts. But if you are not even secluded from your sense objects or from perception of others, good luck secluding your mind from your thoughts.